And hello, you guys. I'm Rick Dancer. Welcome to Get Real with Rick Dancer. I'm going to be joining live with TikTok in a couple of minutes. Tonight's not going to be a happy show because I'm irritated, and we're going to talk about some things that are going to make some of you mad, and that's okay. That's kind of what life's all about. I'm just done with the madness. So our sponsors tonight are Chris Dental. Family dentistry, where everyone is welcome and your civil liberties are respected and your freedom is honored. If you're looking for a dentist that you know, in these times, we got to support people that believe what we believe. That's just proven that that's what it's like. That's how it is. And if you're looking for a dentist that understands where you're coming from, Dr. Bratlin might be just the guy. Also, another sponsor we have tonight, I've got to look on my list, Fairway Independent Mortgage. Greg Hinkle out of Montana, Helena, Montana, can help you with your mortgage. He's a lender or a mortgage lending team, and they can work with people from Idaho, Washington, and Montana. Good people, good guy, and he loves what we do. He supports freedom. He supports our civil liberties. Another client, just bear with us here. We're going to get these out of the way. Hey, Bill, how you doing, man? A new client, Rains Heating and Air Conditioning out of Crestwell. He's going to show you they got a fireplace special going. In fact, you know what I'll do? I'll just run it right now, and then we'll get right into our show. Well, it's that time of year when winter is calling, especially right here in Montana. And you know that fall is in the air, things are changing. But there's some things you need to do to your heating and air conditioning system and your fireplace that you may not know about. And that's why Bradley Rains from Rains Heating and Air Conditioning is here to join us. Bradley, I when we were setting this up, I'm looking at your fireplace there at your client's house, and I'm thinking, I need somebody to do this here in Montana. Do you have any specials going on right now?
We do actually have some specials going on. We're running a special on our maintenances right now. We're doing the maintenances on the gas fireplaces for $125. We usually do them for $175. So we're giving it $50 off on the fireplace maintenances. And what we do on that is we vacuum out all these embers. We clean the pilot assembly. We vacuum out the whole inside of the cabinet, and we clean the glass with a gas appliance cleaner. We put everything back together and we cycle the gas fireplace.
So why do you do what you do?
I love doing what I do. I get to go around and help people out every day, and I get to talk to new customers.
So again, and I don't know if you guys knew this. I didn't know this, so I talked to Bradley. Don't use Windex if you're cleaning your fireplace thing by yourself. Don't use Windex. It can blow up. I didn't know that. Did you know that? I am like full of great, knowledgeable information. Okay, I'm going to start the TikTok broadcast over here now that we're through the commercials. So, hello TikTok, hello everybody, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of you guys. So tonight, I'm irritated. I'm irritated at so many things right now. And we live in a world where we now have terrorists slitting the throats of babies in Israel. That's what, I don't know if you guys have been listening to the reports, but these Hamas tyrants they killed innocent people at a music concert. Then they go in and they go into families' homes while they're sleeping and shoot them dead. And then they take babies and they cut their head, they decapitate them. So what the hell is that? And you've got groups like Black Lives Matter standing up for the Palestinians, standing up for that? Really? What does that say about these groups? What does that say about us as people? I was running around the pond this morning, and all of a sudden I just was listening to sad music. Oh, how interesting. Wow, isn't that interesting? I think, let me go look. I think TikTok just kicked me off. Huh. I do. Okay, let me see something here. You guys, are we still live? That is so weird. Well, I guess I'm back on there. I don't know what that was all about. So, One of your friends is live, and I don't know. It shut me down. Saw a man holding his baby up in the air, obviously dead, praising Allah for her sacrifice to cause. So, what does that say about groups of people when they're willing to support this group of people who's doing this horrible thing to the Israelis? Now, this is way beyond Palestine and Israel. This is way beyond that. People, and I know that some people just want to go on and, oh, yeah, free Palestine. Yeah, go away. I can't even believe that people are going to the death. Let's just take it from a strictly human point of view. Anybody willing, there's no cause where you should be willing to go in and kill and slaughter innocent people. Did you hear there was also a woman who was pregnant at the hospital, and a Hamas, whatever they are, walked up to her and shot her baby. The woman died, or the woman lived, but the baby died. So he went up and shot an unborn baby. Then I saw in New York City protesters out there screaming, happy that this is happening, and kill. They were saying, kill the people. I can't say the word because then I'll get shut down on here if I do. The people of Israel. So we live in this world, and then, what is Joe? And I know I'm going to get throttled for this, but you guys, I'm just so done. I'm so done with living in a country where we as people cannot demand that these companies stop throttling information so that we are not able to talk about this stuff openly and honestly. You got BLM out there supporting this group of people, so they're supporting murderers. What does that say about them? And I don't care anymore. People can call me what they want. I'm just done, because your words don't matter. You know what matters is your heart. And when you are willing to do that or support people that do that, that shows one thing about your heart: evil, 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 evil. That's what it shows. This is a kind of evil that we have to stop. And this isn't even about Palestine or Israel. And some people are going to try to make it that way. This is about terrorists going into a country and slaughtering people. And if you are in support of that, what in the world? Really? I can't even believe it. I'm running around the pond. I'm just crying because I'm so tired. I'm just so tired of all of this. And what makes me the maddest about it is the acceptance that we as people have for this. I mean, yes, people are coming unglued, but there are still people out there who are okay with this. How do you excuse that? How do you excuse that? I don't get it. I do not understand how anyone, even if you were pro one side or the other, but we've gotten that way with politics too. I mean, really, it's like, well, this is evil, horrible kinds of behavior. Bullying is bad. Unless you're bullying the other political party, then we'll accept it and it's okay. No, bullying is bullying. I'm going to get a little preachy here, but I think this is why God says in the Bible that there is no sin that's more bad, worse than the other. Because I've heard lots of people say, oh, people who do this kind of murder, they should go to a special place in hell, and that kind of thing. Lying in God's eyes is the same thing as murder. All of it. So we've got people in our government lying to us. We've got people in our government trying to sway us and manipulate us. We've got this set up. If you can come on and just go blah, 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 and say your thing. Do your research. Go look at where this started, how this all came about, and why, President Biden, are you not taking back that billions of dollars that you've given that's being funding this stuff? It's our money, yours and my money. And Iran should have no part of that. Why aren't we putting sanctions against them? Why aren't we doing more? It's easy to get up in a press conference and talk about how sad it is. To actually do something to stop it, Kevin, you're right. It is all corrupt. It's 100% corruption. But what's really disgusting about it is that this bugs the hell out of me. So when this is announced, this horrible thing is announced, the president has a barbecue planned at the White House, and he continues to have the barbecue. Good night. Who are your advisors? I mean, that is so tacky, inconsiderate, selfish. It's an abomination, if you ask me. I mean, when are we going to start asking hard questions? And here's part of the problem. We can't do it. We can't do it because I'm sitting here being pretty careful because they'll just shut you down. They'll already throttle this back. There's enough of you coming on who are interested because we're all tired of this. But we need to put some demands on social media companies that you get your algorithms off there. Stop it. A year ago, I was getting 500,000 people on here. They've throttled back, and people aren't on Facebook anymore because they're tired of it. But they're throttling it back all the time because they don't want free speech. They don't want us to talk about these hard issues because they think they're right. Yeah, Thomas Jefferson said, an enlightened electorate is the key to survival of the republic. What happens to this country, we deserve it. I totally agree with you, Dan. I think we've become lazy. I think we become self-centered. I think we become spoiled, and we don't even know. We're apathetic. We don't participate in elections. How many people, they talk about how many people vote, and they'll say like, what, 50%? Well, that doesn't count for all the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people that aren't even registered to vote and are registered and don't even participate. So if you don't vote, then shut your mouth. You shouldn't have any say in what happens, because if you don't even have the decency and the awareness to go in and vote, then why can you gripe? Why should you have the right to complain if you don't even participate? We as a world should be so upset by this, not because it's Palestine and not because it's Israel, but because a group of terrorist people planned this and went in and murdered, eradicated. This is like Hitler stuff. I hope that's not a word they take me on, but this is crazy. So we as a world have to stand up and do something. And what are we going to do? Feel bad? That doesn't do anything. That's such an American thing. And what we should be doing is calling out these groups that are supporting it. If you're supporting what happened, then you are guilty. You're just as guilty as they are. And we should be calling those people out. We should be taking the money away from Iran. How about first we get a leader? Part of the problem here that many of you don't want to talk about is that you have to have leaders that people are afraid of. Nobody's afraid of Joe Biden. Nobody. He couldn't whip his way out of a wet paper sack. And they know that we're weak. So all these things, go back to all the things that are happening because there's no United States. They have us so divided right now that we can't, and that's how they want it. You divide people and then they don't come together and work together. I'm going to resist that. So you go back and look at this, and we have weak leadership. So we're on the verge. And I think there's people out there going, oh, whatever, I'm smoking my pot, whatever I'm doing. We're on the verge of a world war, World War III. And there's people out there who don't take this seriously. And right, somebody on here says it's all coming back to roost. It is. Biden doesn't know where he is, and that's elder abuse. Jennifer said that. That is true. And yet we as a country are allowing that to happen. So does that make us just as guilty? You guys, here's the thing. This is pure evil, Okay? It's evil. And anybody siding up with that, it's evil. You don't get to go, well, they did this. I know. This is about butchering human lives. Butchering human lives. And if you're saying, I support their actions, God help you. Unbelievable. So we've got protests in Chicago. We've got protests in New York City. Ignorant people not looking at the humanity that's involved here. So you support a baby getting its head cut off. Huh. That's what you support. Huh. No, it's not that. I support Palestine's right to be their own place. Well, go back in history and look at what it is. You want to get real factual about this stuff? The land belongs to the Israelis. God gave it to them. He promised it to them, and you can do whatever you want, but in the end, they're going to get it. It doesn't matter what you do. So if you're fighting that, and I would love to find the people in the Christian community who are all supportive of what's going on with this. Because God help me, and I hope I don't get in line behind you on Judgment Day, because I'll tell you what, these are bad people. I mean, think about what it takes, the hate that it would take to go in and do that to people. Innocent. These are innocent people. I have friends, I'm trying to get her, I think I'm going to interview her tomorrow. She's from Eugene. There's 10 of them, and they're stuck in Israel right now. They can't get out. She texted me, and I said, can we try to do a live in the morning? I'm going to do a live with her, I hope, and I'll have it on tomorrow night. But they're scared to death. I mean, they're scared they're going to get killed. And they can't get on an airplane because all the airports are closed. Uncle Joe is doing nothing to get people out of there. Get some damn air freighters in there and get those people out of there. But instead, he's having a barbecue. So he's off having a barbecue while people are trying to get the hell out of Israel. That's our president. What a piece. So maybe you ought to look at that. Good to see you again. I wholeheartedly agree. Beheaded infants are the reports. Yeah, Sean, lots of them. And as I was telling earlier, I heard a report from a hospital. They were going into hospital rooms and shooting people that are in the hospital. And they shot a woman's baby in her stomach. She was ready to give birth and killed the baby, and the woman survived. I'm sorry, TikTok, this isn't like one of our normal shows. But I'm irritated, and this is what we're going to do today. And those of you writing on their Free Palestine, really? So you support what's going on? You support their efforts? I would love to have you answer that question. So you support their efforts. This is how they're trying to free Palestine, and you agree with that? I'm asking. I'm not convicted. I'm not saying you're guilty of that. I'm asking you. When you post that up there, is that what you're saying? Because that's the fact of what's happening. So does that make you part of the problem? I heard there are over 100,000 Americans in Israel right now. Yeah, I don't know, Laura, but I believe you, that number. But this is a group from Eugene. I think they were over there on a tour, and they're all together and they're stuck. Can you imagine the feeling of that? It's unbelievable. So, while we're at it, yeah. Oh, so much hypocrisy in the world. The very people who will post, I support Palestine, are the same people, screaming at people for more rights and all this. And what about the rights of those people to have a life? What about the rights of those innocent little children to have a life? It's kind of hypocritical, isn't it? When you support Palestine, because what you're saying is you support the actions that happened. And if you support that, then how can you say that you care about the dignity of life? Maybe you don't. I don't know. But it's pretty unbelievable. I think people need to get more educated. We are an ignorant society. Ignorant. We don't do our homework. We see a D or an R and we, like a bunch of sheep, line up behind it. We want tyranny. We want people to tell us what to do so we don't have to decide for ourselves, so that then when it screws up, we can blame them instead of ourselves. This is our making, not the situation in Israel. Well, it's the United States. It's part of our problem. Why are we giving money to Iran? And then it gets filtered to terrorist groups. So how come more people like you and me aren't screaming about that? And then how come we got people posting support Palestine? Ignorance. You don't even know what's going on. You don't pay attention to world events. You're listening to one brand of media. This is not for me, excuse me, against Palestine, and it's not against anybody. What it is against is Hamas and terrorist activities. If this is what you do to free Palestine, shame on you. Innocent people dead. If you go back in history, how's that any different? I can't say it on here because they'll shut me down like faster than snot. But how is that any different than what a tyrannical leader did to a whole group of people, and actually the same group? And you denounce that. But this is okay for you? Makes you have to ask yourself your questions. What do you really believe? Do you believe that life is sacred at all? Do you believe that God's in control? I do that. And I do believe life is sacred. But it just breaks my heart to think of people going in and cutting off the heads of infants. And that's for peace, to get your land back. It's not even your land. Now there we could disagree a little. But over land, people are killing. I know it's happened all through history, but that doesn't make it right. There are innocent people living in Israel and innocent people living in Palestine. Exactly. There's people in Palestine. I was listening on the radio today that even Palestinian people, that they're going to start probably putting in harm's way. So Hamas will put them in harm's way so that they will get killed and have more casualties on that side, but they're using their own people. They will probably use their own people to get to the end of their means. That's evil. Evil. It's no longer about land and money. Kevin, you're 100% right. It's deplorable. So Carol, I like what you're saying. Palestinian suffering is real. Hamas is deplorable. But they elected him too. But how do you not? So I was listening on the radio today. So they said, yeah, they were elected. I almost said something wrong. But how do you really vote in a country where a terrorist group runs everything? And then you go to vote and you're going to say, I don't agree with you. You can't. They voted him in, but it wasn't a fair vote. It's about hate, not land. Exactly. So what do you think as Americans, what should Joe Biden be doing right now? Obviously having his barbecue at the White House is, number one on the list. That's super important because we've got a world, people dying, and we got to keep that barbecue going. But what would be second on the list? And in case you didn't know, if you haven't looked at the economic picture for forecast for our country, we're in deep doo-doo, deep. And Joe Biden can keep telling us that the economy's booming and they can show the job numbers, but you go listen to the economic experts, which is not Joe Biden or his crew. You go listen to the experts and you see what they're writing, we're in trouble. And yeah, here's another one. Yeah, lock down the $6 billion that Biden won't. So he gets on there and says, oh, we're going to stand against this, blah, blah, blah. Then take away the frickin' money. Have you taken away the money? No. So you're just going to give lip service to this thing. I'm done with the lip service. As long as we're talking about controversy, let's just go all the way. What about the 8 million illegal immigrants who have infiltrated our country and are breaking the backs of the American taxpayer? What about that? You've even got New York City, where they were a sanctuary city, now screaming, we can't handle any more people. And Joe Biden's policy has allowed all these people in. And here's what I find funny. You get arguments from especially younger people, and they say, well, but they want a better life too. Then go through the process. You can't bring 8 million people in 3 years into the country and not have overload on our schools. So what about your neighbor who lives in the mobile home, can barely afford to pay their electric bill, can't afford to put food on the table, has to dump their garbage out in the woods because they can't afford $8 to dump it at the dump, because that $8 is part of their food budget? How do you tell them these people just want a better life, so you have to pay for it? So our poor, our working poor, our middle class, we're all paying for this. And people are turning their eyes and doing nothing because it doesn't affect them, they think. Go to Texas, go to Arizona, go to New York City, go to Chicago. It's affecting people. And we're all paying for it. And it's not mean, it's a process. Can I go to Mexico? I have to get a passport and everything just to go on vacation to Mexico. It cost me $400. I want to go on vacation. Is Mexico going to let me stay there? Hell no. Every other country in the world is going to make me go through a process if I want to move there. And for some reason, those of us in America don't think hard enough to understand this is costing the poor, the middle class. There's no money. And you can't just open border doors and because it feels good. We're a nation of feelers. We just, well, it sounds good and it feels good and it makes me feel virtuous. I don't give a damn how you feel. What is it doing to the people you say you really care about? The working poor. What's it doing to them? What's it doing to cities like New York and Chicago? I'm not making this stuff up. If you turned off NBC and ABC and George Stephanopoulos and you started listening to some alternate news information, even Joe Rogan, and I know you don't like Joe Rogan. Jordan Peterson, oh, he hates that. You don't know, you don't listen. Go educate yourself instead of sitting in front of a tube and letting ABC spoon feed all they want you to believe into your mouth, and you gobble it down and go, gosh, I'm a good person because I believe what everybody else believes. Unbelievable. What happens when this comes to us? Look, remember 9/11? It came on our territory. That got us attention. That got our attention, didn't it, for a while? Until, new TVs came out, another video game, and a great Hollywood movie, and then we forget. We're pathetic. We are pathetic. So it's really easy for some people on here to come on, and I support Palestine. And I want you to get on a plane and land in a country near Israel, go into Israel, and I want you to go into those houses, and I want you to see what they did. I want you to look at the blood, look at the destroyed families, look at the generation of people, and then I want you to look me in the eye and say, I support Palestine. I dare you. I dare you. Yeah, Tom, let's talk about that. Everybody blame. I'm just on a thing tonight. Tom says higher interest rates eliminate more lower income buyers and getting into housing. This is not working. Yeah. So we the same people preaching all this other BS preach affordable housing, and yet they put more restrictions on the timber industry, which is, by the way, timber is what builds the walls in your house. So we have so many restrictions. So they limit how much lumber can be produced. And then you wonder why it costs so much to build a house. Because you created rules that will not allow them to cut the timber. So the timber they have, if you took basic economics in high school, you'd understand when there's a low supply, the price goes up. So we have that. So oh, we need affordable housing, so what we'll do is tax you people more and make it. No, allow harvesting of timber so that, one, it's good for the environment, which all the carbon folks need to understand, is here's how it works. Trees suck in and eat carbon, and then they store it. So when you cut them down, you're storing carbon. That's good for the environment. That's good for climate. What's not good is when you just let it sit there and get dry, and then you have an electric fire, a thunderstorm, starts a fire, burns the wood, putting more carbon into the air, which then is bad for climate change. In Oregon alone, 3 years ago on Labor Day, there was a fire for a couple of days there. More carbon was put in the air in that week and a half period from those fires caused by environmental laws designed to protect an owl, that all that timber that burned killed that spotted owl habitat anyway. The very plan designed to protect it killed it and dumped thousands of tons of carbon into the air, more than all of heavy industry in Oregon and car pollution combined. Wow, we sure care about the environment, don't we? Climate change, Joe Biden says, is the most important issue out there. Bullshit. Then change your policies then. You're not cleaning up the forest. You're leaving it to burn, creating more carbon. But it feels good because all the environmental community has come and convinced you that that's the facts. Those aren't the facts. That is not the truth of how it works. And what are you going to build a house with? Steel? What's that carbon footprint look like? Have you tried that on? That's a fact. So go add up the information and look at it. Don't just feel good because they're not cutting timber anymore. Well, the house you're living in is made of 2x4s or 2x6s, plywood, that's all timber products. And when the trees are scarce, the price goes up, affordable housing becomes even less affordable, and then people scream, the government people are screaming. Here's the other thing I find so interesting about that whole argument. All these cities have these development charges. And so now you can't just put a house on a gravel road. We have to have a street, an underground stormwater system. We have to have curbs so it'll look pretty and a little entrance for that. You have to have a certain number of trees in a lot of neighborhoods. All that brings the price of a home up because the developer has to do that in order to get approval to do the house. And then these city councilors and county commissioners sit in their ivory chairs and they say, we're going to do this, this, and this. No, reduce the development charges. Stop requiring that people put in pearl handles on their doors. I'm kidding, of course. But look at that kind of stuff. That's where the costs are going up. It's unbelievable. Guys, it's just so ignorant. I mean, it is us being led like a bunch of donkeys, and we don't even get it. My daughter has 3 kids, can't afford a house or an apartment. We let them come home. That's what's happening all over the country. And yet these people are out screaming, 20 years, 65%. Yeah, Sean, that's the problem. And these people, the same people keep getting elected. And are you looking at what they're setting up? Are you looking at what they're doing? Okay, as long as we're talking about the carbon thing, I haven't seen a whole bunch of movie stars trading in their private jets and going on an airline or biking across the country to their job. But they're screaming at the rest of us to reduce our carbon. When I'm riding with 400 other people on an airplane and they're riding with, their staff on a plane, that's called hypocrisy. When you expect others to do what you don't do. It's kind of like when we had the mask situation with the pandemic, and we had people going into meetings, elected officials telling us we had to do this, this, and this, and they weren't doing it. That kind of stuff is what we need to be calling people out on. So I'm sorry I'm not doing a regular show over there, TikTok. I know we usually have more conversation and I'm reading more, but this is what we're doing tonight because it's important. We as America need to stand up for Israel. We need to stand against tyranny. We need to stand against violence, murder, bloodshed, terrorism. This is just terrorism. This is not some noble cause. And how do you put up with groups like BLM, who I saw their press release? I looked twice because sometimes I'll see something and I want to post it and then I get my undies in a bundle because I didn't check it out. I went on numerous sources, Newsweek, all of them. And yes, BLM put out information saying they support Palestine. If you do that, then that means you support the activities that were going on. And what does that say about you? What does that say about you? I mean, it says it all to me. And you have no credibility with me whatsoever. And then people can try to make me into whatever they want to say I am. It doesn't matter because it just doesn't matter anymore. You guys, you've said you have blown everything because you have no credibility anymore. It's like the Biden administration. There's not a stitch of credibility in there because, and here's the deal. I'm not a big old Donald Trump fan at all. I really like Kennedy, but anyway, who I vote for is going to be. But if it comes down to Biden or Trump, I'm not putting that. I'm not going to redo this last 4 years. What a cluster screw. And here's the thing. Look at the facts. Facts. My 401k and everything in my life was doing a lot better under the last leadership than it is right now. And all you hear, a good leader takes the blame and fixes the problem. All we hear from this one is, it's always somebody else's fault. And I'm so sick of, this is the only thing I would say about a party. Democrats, come on, get over Trump, okay? Just get over it. Go find a candidate that you can vote for or we could vote for who's good, who's not half dead. But it's not Trump's fault. And you're gonna elect Trump because of your hate. I really believe that. You're the things you keep after him. And I think the general public is just going, oh my God, what is wrong with you people? So your very actions are going to put him in office. The thing you fear the most is going to happen, which we're all like that with stuff. The thing you fear the most is going to happen. I'll decide. I don't think Biden's going to be it. I'll decide who I'm going to vote for when we get down to the wire and I see who I think is going to do the best job for the country. And that's how everybody should vote. It's not jumping on a bandwagon. But if you are supporting Mr. Biden, I would love to hear your reasons why. Is your life better today than it was 5 years ago or 4 years ago, pre-COVID? And I'll tell you, I think Trump says some of the dumbest things, and he's kind of, I think he's on the spectrum, actually. I would guess he's on the spectrum. But anyway, he says things that I just stand back as a guy who's been in the media and ran for office. I just go, oh my God, you kids, what are you doing? But if you take one for the other, how does the country look today than it did then? And you can throw all your little side issues in there if you want to. Well, he hates this and if you believe all that, I have so many people online that come in and say, Rick Dancer, you're a racist because you said this. There's nothing racist about it. You're a homophobe because you said this. There was nothing gay about it. And it drives me crazy. And I'm honest with what I say. But so what we're learning is it's kind of like crying wolf. You can say what you want to say, but the stickers, let me tell you a story. This is how we'll end this little thing, okay? Yeah, Laura, here's the thing. She says, we need someone who's neither of them. Here's the deal. So we live in a diverse America, allegedly, right? We have all these people. We're about women. We're about promoting and getting more gay people in our society, more Blacks, more Hispanics, more Latinos, all of this. And still, the only people we can get on the ticket that look like they're going to be the candidates are two old, half-dead white men. What is wrong with us? This is the best we can do. And then you got somebody like Kennedy who comes up, who's kind of a fresh breath of fresh air. Oh no, he's this. And then Vivek, oh, he's only 38. He's too young. So anytime anybody new comes into the picture, you just blow them up. And what do? You go right back to the two old curmudgeons who are the top runners right now and blah, 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 blah. It's just like, yeah. And Curry, new House Speaker, shame on you, Republicans. We're in a terrible place right now in our country. We're so divided, and you fire your speaker because one guy didn't like him and 8 people had their head up there behind. So in the midst of the chaos, and I would bet that has something to do with the attacks. They know we got no speaker, we're in a state of flux, now's the time, and they come in and they do this thing. All of this stuff matters. It's the perception in the world of what we look like. And we look like the weakest bunch of self-serving, and we're fighting over issues of what are the biggest issues in our country? Right now, it's like, it should be, we're looking at a third world war. We already had one with Ukraine, with what's going on with Russia. And yet the best we can come up with, what's your fucking pronoun? God. I mean, we're arguing over stuff like that when there's really big issues out there at play. I mean, that's what's crazy about this. So our country is embarrassing. It is. And maybe this will wake us up. I don't know. But the fact is, and let's hit one more issue. The economy. Because I'm hearing so many people talk about, well, look how, but we have all these jobs. I was listening to an economist today. That doesn't matter. That's not how it's measured. And we are struggling and we are suffering. And what is so horrible, I live in Townsend, Montana. There's a number of very low income people here. And you see them struggling. I mean, really struggling. And then I sit here and I think, what are we doing? This isn't helping them. And they're, just like always, they're the forgotten. And it all centers around the people with the loudest mouths, the most followers, the high-tech companies that can squelch free speech, government who is working for its current administrator right now. We've got one presidential candidate who has how many lawsuits, and if you listen to the facts on some of those, they're pretty weak. You got another one who did some of the same things, not even pursuing, and has a son who it's pretty obvious at this point that the family is benefiting off of someone's name, which is completely unethical and immoral and against the law. And nothing's happening. It's just silent. Why don't we get back to being a country where if both people are doing something bad, we try both of them? Why don't we get to a place in our country where I don't care if you have a D or an R or an I in front of your name, there's equal treatment under the law. Because if we don't, you guys are going to elect the very person you're afraid of, because you're building sympathy, because you're relentless. And you're honestly, I've never seen this kind of hate in my life. I've never seen people hate someone so much that they're so blind that they can't see that their actual hate is propelling that person into the very position that they're afraid of. That's what you're doing. It happened with COVID. I think we showed the world what fear can do. And if you have a leader who takes an opportunity to force you to do something rather than ask you to do something, the definition of that is tyranny. And I lived in Oregon under Kate Brown, and she was a tyrannical monster, which is why I live in Montana. And what I was most shocked and ashamed of, if I'm really honest, is how willing many of people in Oregon were to go along. And not only go along, but shun people who didn't. And cancel people, hate people. The same people with the choose kindness stickers in their front window said some of the most hateful and nasty things to their neighbors who didn't agree with their stand on the COVID. Love thy neighbor. How is all of this connected? Evil. Yeah. And if it's true that God sees all sin the same, then somebody lying is just as bad as what happened when somebody kills. Yeah, one of the things that I think I really would like to do sometime, I need to go just sit out in a mountain here in Montana by myself and go back and rehash what happened during what I call the dark time of COVID. I need to cry because it was like the ugliest thing I've ever seen in people. The way people treated each other. It kind of hurt. I guess I need to go kind of have some time with that. I had one guy, and I've told some of you about this before. He was a friend. We used to go to church with him, helped design my house. 4 months ago, went to one of my biggest clients and said, you need to stop sponsoring Rick Dancer because he's spreading misinformation. So this guy had no concern for my livelihood, my life, my wife, my income. He was so full of hate that he had the gall to call up one of my sponsors and try to convince them to stop working with me. That is evil. And he can go to church every Sunday and give his little tithe and go to his University of Oregon job and collect his PERS and live off the taxpayers and do all the things he wants to do. But when it came to me, it didn't mean one shit. He just was out to destroy. Shame on you. And that's just one story that everybody could repeat over and over again. You know what I love about my life? I'm glad I don't fit in. I'm glad I was born to always have rough edges. And yeah, I probably feel too much. I don't get my feelings hurt, I guess. I feel too much, and I think I feel pain that way. But God, I care. I had a business coach, and she asked me, why do you do what you do? And I said, because I believe everybody has a voice and they should be able to use it whether I agree with them or not. And she says, why? And I'm like, what? Isn't that a good reason? She goes, no, but why? And then it was like God just kind of whispered in my ear. And I went, oh my God. And I started to cry. And I said, my dad never listened to me. I felt like I spent my whole life not being listened to. And so she said, so your dad's mishandling of that created the man that you are today. And I was like, yeah. So the pain and the of not being heard, and it wasn't just him, it was people in school. I was bullied a lot. People didn't understand me. I didn't understand me. But that's a gift because now I am driven. And you know, it says in the Bible, we're all born for a time like this. I think each and every one of us are born to be right here, right now. But you weren't born to be here, to be a wallflower. You weren't born to be here to be some Voss sitting on the counter with no water and no flowers in you. You were put here to bloom, to come alive, to be part of this thing and to denounce hate and murder and what's going on in the world. Even when it doesn't feel good. Even when it makes you angry. Even when you don't want to confront somebody because it hurts, because you know they're going to hurt you, you do it anyway. I'll leave you with a good story. Let me leave it this way because this is an upbeat story. There's a little village of people. They're called Weemics. One little Weemic's name is Punchinella. Punchinella is beside himself. What the people of this little village are called Weemics, what they do all day is they have stickers that are circles and stars. So if you do something that the Weemics perceive to be good, they put a star on you. If you do something that they perceive to be bad or not acceptable, they put a circle on you. So all day long, the Weemics go around and putting stars and circles on each other, judging. Bam, 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 bam. Well, Punchinella is covered with circles because every time he tries to jump over a creek, he falls in. They put a circle on him. He puts his clothes on, he puts the wrong shirt on, they put a sticker on him. So one day he sees this little Weemic. Her name's Lucia. Lucia has no stickers, none, no stars, no circles. So Punchinella walks up to her and he says, how come you don't have any stickers? And people would walk up to her, Weemics would walk up and say, well, since you don't have any stars, you must be bad. I'll put a circle on you, circle fall off. And they say, well, since you don't have any, you should have a star. The star would fall off. So Punchinella goes up to Lucia and he says, how come you don't have any stickers? And she says, well, I spend every day up at the toy maker's house because these are all toys. And he goes, the toy maker? Yeah, Eli. He lives up on the hill. You should go see him. So Punchinella goes up on the hill, walks into the room, and there's Eli, this big craftsman. And he looks down and he says, oh my, Punchinella, you came to see me. Punchinella says, you know my name? He goes, of course I know your name. I made you. And he goes, you have a lot of circles, bad marks on you. And Punchinella starts making up excuses, going, no, I just, every time I try to do something, I did this. And Eli says, stop. They're just Weemics like you. Their stars and circles don't matter. It doesn't matter what they stick on you. What matters is how I feel about you. I made you. I love you. The stickers won't stick unless you let them. Punchinello's like, what? He goes, you come up here every day and spend time with me, and you will begin to see that the stickers only stick when you let them. And at that moment, one of the circles fell off of Punchinella. I read that story to a kindergarten class in Springfield, Oregon. A 5-year-old boy was in the audience. I started to cry. I'm a pretty easy cry. He says, why are you crying, Mr. Dancer? And I said, well, I just, that story just kind of touched me again. He goes, I wonder if the story's about that it doesn't matter what people think about us, it's what you think about yourself. And of course, that made me cry more because a 5-year-old boy was counseling a 38-year-old man. And I walked out of that room and I thought, the stickers only stick if you let them. So remember that. Doesn't matter what people say when you go out and say, no, I denounce this. No, that's wrong. You're saying something bad about that person. That's not true. They're not racist. They're not homophobic. They're not this. Because when you throw your sticker back, and the far left is professional with stickers, and they don't have a big collection of stars unless it's for themselves. But Republicans are just as bad. But in my case, it always seems to be the far left. Well, actually, when I ran for office, Republicans hated me. They said, "You're too liberal. You're a rhino." I didn't even know what a rhino was. I had to go look it up. So naive. But now what I know is I'm Rick Dancer, created by God for such a time as this. And you say what you want, and say what you will, but the stickers only stick if I let them. I'm Rick Dancer. Thanks for putting up with me tonight. Share this on your page with someone else who might be feeling the same way. If I offended you, that's your choice. Being offended is a choice. If you learn something, good. If you just think I'm a jerk, that's fine too, because the sticker doesn't stick. So anyway, good night, and be praying for the people of Israel. Tune in tomorrow night. Hopefully I'm going to get that interview at 7 a.m. with those folks that are trapped in Israel. And we'll have that on tomorrow night at 6 o'clock Mountain Time, 5 o'clock Pacific Time. All right, have a good night. I'm going to go home and have a beer. Because the stickers only stick if you let them. Okay, hang on. Thanks, you guys. See you later. All right. Oh, now I'll see you guys later too. Have a good night.